Hi everyone, I'm Satine Phoenix, co-creator of Maze Arcana and GM of Savage Nation. Welcome to the brand new edition of GM Tips. It's a video series where we share our thoughts on how to dungeon master or game master your own role-playing game. Today's DM Tips is about community. Gaming today is crazy different than it was back in the day. You were lucky to find a group of friends who were interested, who would risk having food thrown at them during lunch, like juice boxes with carrots shoved in them, or fresh made brownies. This is what I went through in high school. It sucked. Well, 2017 is brilliant. We nerds have won. There's at least a dozen gaming stores here in Los Angeles. Can't leave your house to play? Use an online platform like Fantasy Grounds or find people to game with on websites like meetup.com. Seriously, there are gaming conventions like every other week all over the world. As some of you know, my game of choice is Dungeons & Dragons. For 6 years, I organized the D&D community in Hollywood at Meltdown Comics. There I ran one-shots for beginner players. So many people came in looking for games with different career backgrounds, different ages, men and women of all ethnicities. The community we built there was beautiful, a really safe place for all of us to play. The games I ran were all homebrew, wacky, David Lynch-style adventures that I'd come up with on the fly. Since then, I've learned that Dungeons & Dragons has created something called Adventures League. It centralizes their gaming community. They have specific rules on character creation and league-approved modules. I could roll on, but instead, let's discuss this with our local gaming community expert, the co-creator and GM of Maze Arcana, Mr. Ruty Rutenberg. Hi.
Hi. Hi.
Welcome.
Hi.
To the show.
Thank you for having me.
I have been homebrew gaming forever, but AL, you're the expert. Can you explain a little bit what it is?
AL, Adventures League, is organized play. It's basically the easiest way for you to find a game, especially if you're new to some place and you don't have a bunch of friends. Like, let's say you're that person that's at home that's like, I want to get in a game, I can't find it, and all I've got is a mountain of books and stuff like that, and you can't find people that are interested in doing it with you. AL is how you're going to get in, you're going to get experience playing with people. It's kind of like an LFG for tabletop.
Well, how did you find it?
For Adventures League? Yeah. So basically, I got invited into the playtest for D&D Next, and that was with some Hollywood friends of mine, and we were just playing around, and then as one does, your schedule gets all over the place, and the group not fell apart, but needed to take an extended break. I took the initiative to look at meetup.com, and from Meetup, I found all of the game stores around the area that could facilitate Adventures League and which nights, and then I ended up being a little bit of a junkie and probably playing like 4 nights a week for a while.
As you do.
As I did a lot. And then I got more and more involved in it, and I started to get invited to conventions. And so you can find Adventures League games at basically any convention you go to, and you really get the opportunity to play with a wide variety of people. So that's how I got into it. They pulled me in and they were like, hey, do you want to DM a game? And I was like, sure. And they're like, good, you don't need any prep time, here's the module. And I was like, oh, okay.
Adventures League has a certain structure to it. You can't just come in with your own module and run games and have it be Adventures League. Can you talk a little bit about what it's like running an adventure?
AL is kind of adverse to a homebrew where you make up rules. You want to add new feats, you add new feats. If you want players to have 35 feats at first level, that's something that's clearly open to you as a DM. But in Adventures League, there's a standardized rule set. There's a couple of the rules that are in the DMG or in the player's manual that are variants, like rolling for stats. And the Adventures League takes a lot of the randomization out of it, so that when you set up to a table with 4 or 5 other people, you're rolled the same way. Nobody's going to be vastly overpowered or underpowered. Have you ever sat down at a homebrew table and been like the weakest party character or the strongest?
Well, I just roll really bad, so I can never tell if it's me or the mechanics. But in the long-term games that I've played, they were really long games. Mm-hmm. So we had a chance to really get to know the game masters.
Right.
Whereas in Adventures League, it's more like you don't know who your game master is going to be that week,
Right.
or you don't know the other people playing in the game. So I guess what you're saying is that Adventures League has a structure to it, so everyone feels like it's fair.
Adventures League is not there to make you go by the rules exactly. It's not there to hamstring a DM. What it's there to do is give you a constant narrative that you can plug into and weave in and out of that goes alongside the campaigns that they've created.
So, okay, you have a standardized module that many people can play.
Right.
And at conventions, you have players who've played some of the old modules and they're familiar with it. So how do you get them not to cheat?
Well, so one of like the really awesome things about Adventures League is that the community shares an experience, right? All of the modules are available for everybody. So I can run a game and you can run a game for totally different people, but those people can come together, getting coffee at Starbucks down there or anything else and be like, oh my God, how awesome is this thing that happened, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, yeah, unless you went completely off the rails like I did. And you're like, yeah, that was so cool. I did this. How did you guys do it? Oh, well, we did this. The downside to that is that sometimes you get DMs or players who buy all of the modules and read them. And sometimes that means that they're going to go through and they're going to know the quickest answer to every puzzle. They're going to know where all the loot is. They're going to know, like whatever it is. So, but it's fun to struggle through these things together. So as a DM, when you go in to play those modules and stuff, you also have to, that's where metagaming really becomes a thing, where you just have to make sure that you're not doing those things and you're taking it from the avenue of what a character would do who hasn't been in that situation. I actually think that after you start DMing, it's really important to play, especially stuff that you already know, because it helps you get out of your mind for those things, and then it makes you a better player or a better DM later because it helps you to understand the NPCs and motivations and stuff better, because nobody should just clearly be good and evil, right? We all have motives. You want sushi, and I know that. So now I can motivate you around a way.
For people who can't make it to conventions, let's go down locally.
Okay, so locally, on a smaller level, most game stores have an Adventures League system set up, and they'll run games. Could just be 1 day a week. It could be with one table. It could be 5 days a week with 30 tables. Game Empire is an entire floor. Any place probably around you where you're gonna pick up your book, when you pick up your books or miniatures to paint or whatever, you should ask. If a store that you go to is no, I don't have this, or we want to, but we haven't yet. Number one, feel free to be an organizer. You can do it.
Yeah.
You don't even have to ask anybody. You can just be like, hey, can I start organizing things? And everything will get linked in eventually. But meetup. So I found my first games outside of the playtests.
You found it on my meetup group.
On your meetup group, that's right.
I joined 2 years before we even met.
Exactly. So I joined your meetup group. I found it on there, and then later I have my own meetup group. One of them is specifically for getting players into the shops.
Yeah.
And the shops want to host us because they want you to be around. They love that community. They love the energy it brings to the store, and it doesn't hurt to sell a book or two.
So if you're a new game master and you want to study a good way to structure your game, reading one of the AL modules might actually be a good idea, so you can actually see how to feed all of the hungry players.
Oh yeah, because even if you just read a standard campaign, right? Those standard campaigns are very long form, and you can pick it up and put it down anywhere. But a module is going to give you okay, you can really fit in realistically in a 4-hour period or in a 2-hour period. You can fit in this number of things, and you have to have your hooks, you have to have your setups, you have to have your resolution, and you need to make sure that you don't murder hobo the town while you're at it.
Yeah.
So it really gives you as a DM a good way to handle that. And there's a lot of little side blocks on things where if the players decide to get too rowdy here, or if this happens, it'll give you creative ways that you can get them back on course. And then, of course, playing Adventure League gives you the experience with a bunch of other DMs to see how they handle things. So really awesome stuff that some people can do for epics. That's a thing. So an epic is you can only do it at Adventures League, usually at cons, but it's anywhere between 8 and 40 to 50 tables, all interwoven to where a thing that happens over here affects this table and that one and this one and this one. And there's just this ping pong going on. It takes DMs that are just floating around getting information to make happen, but it feels so interactive and world like WoW would be, right?
Yeah.
You're talking about oh, this happens, and then they did something and it happened to the thing over here. It's like a raid for 40 tables.
That's pretty cool.
It's incredible. And it's again, pacing.
Yeah.
So
and getting all the DMs to understand the pacing. So
yeah.
What does your pre-game house rule explanation look like?
Oh, well, mine's very quick because I say, hey, so I'm this kind of DM. I appreciate these kind of things. I reward things, and I show you how. I don't use inspiration. I have M&Ms or veggie sticks or whatever, because you got to, pay attention to your play. I do that at Adventures League because that's like a thing that you got to do. You got to be aware of it, and you got to have your, community, diversity, table, conflict resolution. Oh, here, have an M&M. It's not as, don't worry about that +2. Here's an M&M. Sometimes it works.
What is your most memorable DM moment?
I would say that probably my most, it's going to be multiple moments because it was over a span of an entire game, but I once played a game, or ran a game, where the entire group, I think there was 5, went through the entire thing without a single swing of a weapon. The entire thing was diplomatically handled because the players understood the town, they understood the miscommunication, I suppose, and the motives behind it. Like, they knew their enemies. So when they went through and they were talking things out, they even had this wonderful, it sounded like 2 lawyers going back and forth, but like good cop, bad cop kind of thing. Where it's like, well, you could do this. On the other hand, you could do that. And I didn't even make them roll for it because they blew my mind. How do you, you're right, I can't make you roll. What happens if you get a 1 on that? That's terrible. It negates the whole thing. No, go ahead, you win. You can't win D&D. They won D&D.
Nice.
Yeah.
Really quick tip to the audience about game mastering.
Well, this is an Eldritch Knot, okay? It is great for that warlock in your life or maybe that aspiring knight. It is not an Eldritch Knot, exactly, but we've all kind of sold our souls anyway, so whatever, right? Whatever. And I probably should be wearing a little bit nicer shirt if I'm gonna go that fancy on the knot.
It's a pretty nice knot.
Yeah, but you get a freebie on this because the idea would be make sure that you have an efficient dry cleaner.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Rudy.
No problem.
That's our show. Thank you, Rudy, for being our special guest. You can follow him on Twitter at Ruty Woot. Ruty Woot. I hope you enjoyed the new DM tips. I look forward to sharing more tips with you here on Geek and Sundry. In the meantime, you can find us every Sunday on twitch.tv/Maze Arcana from 12 to 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thanks for watching. Rudy, DM us out of here.
It'll be my pleasure. The door groans as you step inside the sanctuary. Sparse light drapes stylish yet timeless decor. It's quiet. On a scale of 1 to 10, it's too quiet. Save for the low hum which crawls through the air, and still you edge closer. A bevy of scrapes against ceramics. A plethora of tiny objects against wormwood. A trifecta of beeps replace the hum. Rounding the corner, you see, out of the basement, it's D&D! Looking damn fine, too. What do you do? What do you do? What do you do? What do you do? Settle in. It's just beginning.